Congressman Nunes live at the World Ag Expo in California. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. For full disclosure, I served with you in Congress while I was there, and it's good for you to be here and joining us here tonight. This happened in the greater San Joaquin Valley, where the communities are so tightly knit, a lot of farming activity going on there. But I also want to go back to something that happened less than 2 weeks ago, because also right in your backyard, we had another situation. Gustavo Garcia is accused of this reign of terror going through the county. Remind viewers what happened less than 2 weeks ago.
Well, thanks, Jason. It's great to be on. And let me first say that I have a lot of friends that live in Newman. And so, that force was I think there's only 12 officers. And so this is really a tragedy for the valley here, the big San Joaquin Valley, which is the ag region. I know you've been here many times. Not exactly the way that we want to spend our holidays. So right before Christmas, we had a very similar situation where there was someone who was in the country illegally, had actually been deported twice, had been arrested just prior, and then was released because of the sanctuary city law. The sheriff couldn't hold this Garcia, Mr. Garcia, who went on a rampage for over 24 hours, killed 2 people, possibly a third. We don't know, because I think there's one still in critical condition in the hospital, because this Garcia went around the entire county, several communities, and was shooting people at random, stealing vehicles, and finally caused a major traffic accident, and the car exploded, and he's now no longer part of the planet here. But the bad part is that there are 2 innocents that lost their lives, just like what we experienced in the last couple days just north of here in Newman, where you had a police officer that was killed, and it's just a horrible situation. And you ask me, what can be done? I mean, the sad part is that in the last election in California, these policies were rewarded at the ballot box. So the Democrats who condone these policies had probably their biggest election win ever. And so something's not making sense. I don't know if people just aren't getting the right information, but you would think that at some point politicians would be held accountable for their actions or inactions. And in this case, it's pretty darn clear that these sanctuary city policies are leading to innocent people getting murdered.
Well, and that's the situation with Garcia, the one that happened, less than 2 weeks ago. Right in essentially in your backyard, because this person, I believe, had been incarcerated before and served time for armed robbery. He'd been deported twice, and still he's in the hands of law enforcement, but no communication, and he's able to come across the border. And that's what's so infuriating, is both of these cases, at least on the surface, at least from the information we have now, both of these were preventable, were they not?
Yeah, no question that this one, I mean, this is a situation where it's even worse. The situation here in our home county, in Tulare County, is that this person had actually been deported twice.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole challenge here, that things aren't adding up. A lot of the California border actually has fencing on it. And so the key here is that what we've been trying to do in Congress and what the president's been trying to do, I think, very logical solution, which is, okay, let's take the areas where we have some fencing that isn't quite working. Let's build a wall, one that actually works in those populated areas. Let's make sure we get those secure first. Then other areas you may not need a wall or fencing. But then at the same time, the president was very reasonable and was willing to solve the DACA problem. Now, we had a vote in Congress where Republicans actually voted to build a wall and reform DACA, take care of the kids that were brought here with no part of their own. We didn't get one Democratic vote. Every Democrat in the state of California voted against this law. Those are for the young people who live here who would have been made legal. Yeah. But for some reason, people here in California, I think all over the country, don't realize what a sensible solution was put on the table. Border security, taking care of DACA, putting in a permit system for people to work here that are doing jobs that aren't going to be filled by Americans. Very sensible solutions just are not being communicated, I think, to the people. And I think the people are making some uninformed decisions.
Yeah, it really is amazing that DACA was put on the table and the Democrats rejected that. But I want to go and play a clip, because it does seem that the Democrats are against this because Donald Trump is for it. And so it wasn't too long ago, just a few years ago, that Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, actually believed in a border wall. Watch this tape.
The American people need to know that because of our efforts in Congress, our border is far more secure today than it was when we began debating comprehensive reform in 2005. Between 2005 and 2009, a vast amount of progress has been made on our borders and ports of entry. The progress includes 9,000 new Border Patrol field agents in the last 4 years, construction of a 630-mile border fence, or 630 miles of border fence, that create a significant barrier to illegal immigration on our southern land border.
There you go. I could play that all day long. He voted to authorize it, but now he won't vote in favor of actually funding it. Now, Congressman, we only have a minute left, but you know, Nancy Pelosi is in Hawaii. Maxine Waters is off vacationing in the Bahamas. You're in your district. Kevin McCarthy, who's from the Bakersfield area, is at home in his district. How does the president come to a resolution when Nancy Pelosi is working on her hula as opposed to actually negotiating something that's reasonable? Where does this go?
And I'm right here in Tulare County at the World Ag Expo. It doesn't get better than this. Right here in the Ag Museum. Look, if I was in Hawaii right now, I'd be getting killed if Kevin McCarthy, the new Republican leader, was in Hawaii right now. He'd be getting crushed. You have President Trump sitting in Washington, D.C., waiting to cut a deal, and they're off on vacation. I mean, look, they never wanted to do a deal. They wanted the government to shut down. The second that Donald Trump said, well, look, I'll own the shutdown, or fine, I'll shut it down, they were like, okay, that's it. We'll get out of town, go to Hawaii, and then you watch on January 3rd, when there's a new Congress, they're going to try to pass something, and this is just going to continue. And in the meantime, problems are not being solved. So the good news is about all this is that now they will have a responsibility to put legislation on the floor that will fix these problems that they've been unwilling to vote with Republicans or support the president's agenda to fix.
Well, Congressman, thanks for your great work. I do think that the Democrats want the issue more than they actually want to solve the problem. And I also wish that the Senate would vote on the bill that the House passed. Remember, the House passed the $5 billion. It's the Senate that's not doing it. And I plead with the majority leader in the Senate, put them on the record. Make them actually vote. Let's see who actually stands for the border and who doesn't. And you can only do that by actually holding a vote, because the end of the 115th Congress is about to expire on January 3rd. But Congressman, thank you for joining us tonight and spending some time with us. We do appreciate it.